and welcome to another I Can Make That. I'm Emily, and today we are going to be inspired by that piece of Dear Lizzy paper that I have been holding on to forever. I am going to try, well, that was the original plan, is to try to replicate that. Things went in a very different direction, so I just went with it. Everything is meant to happen when it comes to art stuff, so I just went with it. I have all of the products that I'm going to use today. That paper, they probably use just a regular paintbrush on a app that they created it on. But today I wanted to try some of the fun things I had in my collection, and I have a whole bunch of paint. There's Margot trying to grab my watercolor paper. But I have a bunch of really inexpensive paints. I also have a couple Vicki Booten glazes that I'm going to play with. The first thing I'm going to use is my palette knife, and I'm going to just use a little bit of my dollar store cheapy paint just to kind of get an idea of what these tools can do. Make sure that you have a pack of baby wipes near you if you are going to try this because it gets messy. So there is the palette knife, and then I'm going to actually write down underneath it what it is because I'm going to forget. So I did write it down underneath just saying palette knife. This is my silicone paintbrush. These are the best paintbrushes, especially if you're using gesso. You physically cannot waste any paint with these. So it really kind of makes everything really even and really easy to use. The next thing I'm going to use is a gift card. My sister had gotten my children some gift cards for Christmas and we used them up. So I'm using these just to kind of get an idea of what these look like. I did cut a little piece of it just to kind of try it because I didn't want to make too big of a swipe because I didn't want to have to add another piece of paper to this. So I do like how kind of it's not as straight. There's a lot of little extra textures to the gift card. So the next thing I'm going to use is my Vicki Booten Mixed Media Wedge. I actually really love this. I haven't used it a ton. It's a lot softer than I thought it was when I originally got it. It really isn't, I mean, especially that little ridgy part is a lot more squishy. So you have to use a lot of paint or have a lot of paint underneath it or it doesn't really do anything. It kind of sticks on the paper. But I do really like the techniques that you can use, and there's I think 3 or 4 different ones. Here is my brayer. I have had my brayer, I realized the other day, for almost a year and I almost never use it. So it's just this little wheel and you just push the paint down. They use it a lot on jelly printing. I don't have a jelly printer, but I really think that after what kind of chaos I make today, I think I am going to get one. So I think the look that I am going to try and use is with the gift card. I felt like that was probably the closest to the computer generated paper that I'm using. So we're going to try, I mean, at this point, I really don't really know what I'm going to do. I have just a simple idea of I want to try to make this piece of paper and replicate it into my own. But besides that, I have really no idea of what I'm wanting to do. I'm using this really beautiful yellow that I got from an extremely old studio calico kit. This jar from the Dollar Tree that's an orange, and then I'm going to also use a red from the Dollar Tree that the lid's broken because it was $1. But I'm actually really impressed with these Dollar Tree paints that they have had. The pigment's actually way better than I thought they were going to be. I'm just going to slide the card across the top. The first one I realized I probably didn't put enough paint down, but as I get to the bottom, the paint that I've scraped from the paper with the card is kind of going onto the paper, which I really like this. This one really is actually probably one of my favorites. I really liked kind of the tones and how they mixed, and I liked how the yellow is really bright. It still stands on its own. So here's my second try, and I try to use a little bit more paint, but I think I use still way too much. So this is just a regular little paint tubey thing that you can get at Michael's or Walmart or Target. And I'm going to use my little yellow one again. And then I'm going to use a Dollar Tree blue, which I actually really love this blue. So I am really glad I got to use it on this. So I tried a little bit more paint. But then I think I used a little too much paint. Oh, I did add a little silver too, which I didn't love. I thought it kind of muddled things out. Oh, there's Margot again. She's painting right next to me on the floor on her little desk. So she wanted to come check and see what I was doing. She likes to do whatever I'm doing, which, I mean, is the dream, right? That your kids like to craft with you. So I did use a little too much green, I feel like. I feel like that the green and the yellow weren't as happy as like the red and the orange, but I do like the blue with it. So because I use so much paint, I'm trying to come up with some solutions to what I can do to add extra. Oh, see, she's trying to use the other gift card. She's so cute. So I'm going to use my wedge and try out with that. I let this sit for about a minute before I started playing on it, just so the bottom layer that's soaked into the watercolor paper could like kind of set. And so I'm kind of really just scraping away that extra top layer, which I actually really enjoyed this. I think that this paper will make a really cool like embellishments. It's going to have a lot of layer to it. But because of the gift card that I'm scraping, there's not a lot of extra like layered paint, so it's not super, super chunky. But I did really like how that one turned out. I thought that the layers were really neat. I like how if you like layer it and then turn it like 180 degrees and layer it again, I guess it's just 90 degrees. Don't listen to me, guys. It's been a long day. So I'm going to use more of this yellow. I just really like how it pops. It's definitely more expensive paint, so the pigment's just crazy. This is that rose gold Vicki Booten glaze. It's not for this kind of project, but I wanted to play with it and see what would happen. This one doesn't turn out like the best ever, but I end up really liking it. These papers, what I'm going to do with them is I'm going to scan them into my computer just so I can kind of have a copy of them. And then I am going to probably get some stencils and lay the stencils on it with some different colors. And then I'll probably either turn them into Project Life cards or I will cut them down and use them as embellishments. So I think that the main issue is the yellow doesn't really go with this rose gold, and I think I play with it way too much. I feel like if I just left it alone, it would have been a little better. I do really go in there and scrape, 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 scrape. That I think really helped because it's watercolor paper. It really, that top layer soaks in really fast, but then the rest of it just kind of sits on there to play with. So I love watercolor paper. Anytime I do mixed media, unless it's just a small area on like a pattern paper, I don't like doing like a whole giant sheet of gesso. The watercolor paper just does such a good job. It doesn't get crinkly, which that drives me like absolutely nuts with like regular paper. When it gets wet, it gets all like crazy and wrinkly and it bugs me. So I've scraped all the extras off and now I'm like, what am I going to do with all this rose goldy yellow paint? So I do end up using it. I don't like to waste anything. Adele from Inky Quill has like a use it up journal, which I think I'm definitely going to try and do just because I always have this extra paint. I'm like, what am I going to do with this? So I got another sheet of watercolor paper and I just started brayering it on. I wish that I had stopped at like this point right here and just stopped doing it and gotten another sheet and played with it because I start just layering so much that the coolness of it like kind of goes away. So, I mean, like right there, I think this is just getting a lot. But I do add a little bit gold next. And this one I am definitely going to like get some cool stenciling on top of it and like really show off the like layer and layer and layer and layer of paint. So I'll keep you updated on that one. But that yellow, that rose gold just didn't go together. Like I said, the path to making that Dear Lizzy paper went in a very different direction. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I feel like when you just start playing, you come across things that you wouldn't have normally. So I'm trying to, branch out a little bit and I'm trying to try different things. And I think that that's important to creation. So I'm adding a little bit of gold glaze and I don't know. I overbraid it because then it started like ripping up the bottom layers. It's fine. You'll see at the end after it's like completely dry. It looks really good. It needs more layers now that I've added so many. Like it needs more dimension to it because right now it's just kind of looking a little muddy. All right. So this is where things really go in a different direction. And do you notice every time after I'm done, I clean my silicone mat underneath? It is silicone, so it comes up really easy. It doesn't dye. It is just absolutely fantastic. I got it from Amazon. I'll link it below. But I'm just using primary colors here. The first two are from the Dollar Tree, and then that other one is that one from Studio Calico. And I just use so much paint. It's so much paint. And so I have a bunch, you'll notice, like a crazy amount left over. So I do use it though. And when I use all this extra paint, that's where things get super exciting and fun. So I'm just sliding it across like I did before because I had so much paint, and definitely in that bottom, that blue got a lot more dominance. I just had a lot of extras, and it was everywhere and it was running off the paper. But because it's watercolor paper, it's not a huge deal. Everything stays nice and it doesn't get soggy. So then I start using my wedge, and I am obsessed with how this weaving, like swirly, like, I don't know, wavy line, it's probably wavy's the best, wavy line across it. It turns out, you'll see up close, it looks so cool. I cannot wait. I'm definitely cutting these apart and making them into embellishments. They are just, it's super, super awesome. And the more I like kind of weave it around, and it looks just super awesome. So look how up close, like that bottom layer is soaked in, but then everything else is just kind of all over. So see, I have all this extra paint. I don't want to waste it. I have no clue what I'm about to create. So I kind of cleaned the wedge off on it. So I use my brayer and I'm just squishing down on water paper. So I've got all these cool things, but then I found that and I was like, wow, that's awesome. It looks like coral or like fish not skulls, scales. So I decide to kind of play around with this, like it's really like jelly printing, but it's like the copy of the paint. I'm super excited to show you like all of these crazy things I'll come across with. So I put the gift card down because that's got a ton of paint on it, and I'm just spraying. And because I have all these three colors and they're all getting squished, like it just looks really cool. And because it's a silicone mat and the brayer is a silicone roller, it just squishes everything. It doesn't just like automatically get pulled, it just squishes. So I'm gonna just keep using, I think now I've moved on to cardstock because I've used all my watercolor paper, and it's so fun. And then look at what that gift card did. It's just, I mean, I'm speechless. When I saw it, I was like, holy cow. And like, I was just speechless how these turned out. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to replicate this. I mean, I'm optimistic that I can, but I'm just rubbing all of that extra bone because that's a silicone. It also doesn't really hold in any ink. So I'm going to see, look at how cool it is even on the gift card. I'm going to put some more paper. Oh, I'm going to cut up the like little white spots too because I'm not going to keep it like that. I'm going to kind of make some extra prints of what was left on that gift card. And I mean, it's just beautiful. I'm just so impressed with art is beautiful. Like, I just love it. So these are just some fun prints. Some of them are winners and some of them are not like awesome, but that's okay. The winners are the ones that it's worth all of the chaos for just to get some of those really cool ones. So I put some cardstock down and I'm just going to roll, and there's a ton of paint. So some of it gets out, but that's okay. You just got to go along with it. As long as you don't drop your like bucket of water on your desk, you're fine. So, I mean, it's gorgeous. It's just so beautiful up close. I did have a lot of extra, so I try to wipe a little bit off. But it's just, I love that weird corally, oceany little thing going. I know that doesn't make any sense, but it's beautiful to me and I think it's really cool. So I'm trying to just kind of get as much as I can off of my silicone mat, and the more I'm playing with it, like the crazier I'm getting. I did find out though I don't have enough space on my desk for mixed media. I need to like I've seen those really cool drying racks. They sell them, I think at Michael's, and I think I have to get one so I can play more. So because it's silicone, when you just add a little bit of water, it comes off. So I figured I can use that to my advantage. So I just put some water down. I let it sit for a little bit, and then I'm trying to make more copies of everything that I made. Oh, and then I had an extra piece. So I'm going to use that extra piece here in a little bit. But I'm really trying to push down so that I can get as much off, because the closer you get to the mat, like the cooler the prints are going to be. So they're not going to be as vibrant as before, but they're still really cool. So I just love that. I think that, like I said, this went in a totally, totally different direction than I originally wanted to, but I don't like to restrict myself when it comes to art. I like to just take chances and find something new, and I just go for it. All right, so then I had a lot of paint left on this like copy or the original one that I made, and so I decided to brayer that one and make kind of like a X-ray copy of this. So I just used two different pieces of paper because there's a lot of paint. And these looked really cool. They're like almost like thumbprints or like fish skeletons. I just, it's like very different, and yeah, clean up every time or you just are going to have like the craziest painting mess. So this is my inspiration. We couldn't have gone any farther away, but that's okay. And here are just what all of the tools did. And I think that this went way better than I thought it would. It went totally, crazy adventure type, but it went really cool. I do like this first one. That's probably the closest. See how cool that is now that it's dry? There's just so many fun layers. Yeah, I love when the two colors mixed, all three of them mixed together. I thought it was really cool. So here is my like hot mess, but it's still really pretty. I just need to do more to it. But the gold and the rose gold really do kind of give it a little extra. I actually like how this one turned out. I'm going to add a little bit of extra layers to that, but that's how that one is. I love this. I can't wait to make some embellishments out of that. I think it is so cool, and I love the primary colors. Here's the one that looks kind of like the skeleton, or like like a fish skeleton, I guess. I don't know what my deal is with the ocean today, but I just love that color difference, and it's just beautiful. I'm very into it. I'm sure you can notice, but I've just never made anything like this, and I'm just really excited. So that's the one where I freaked out, that little tiny like thumbprinty looking one. But I'm definitely going to try this on a little bigger scale, like try to get a full piece of paper of that. And I am really excited just to see where I can take this. I mean, it's possible that I'm never going to be able to create this again. So I am going to try to like remember. It's good that I have this on video too, that because I can remember the steps that I took to get this. But this like zebra thing, it's just beautiful. Oh, and this is what Margot made, and she put a red pompon on it. Thank you for watching. Bye.